Hello. Welcome to another afternoon idle. Welcome to the final at this time slot, at least for some period of time. My name is Andrew. I'm a certified mindfulness meditation coach in the Unified Mindfulness System. You can find out more about UM at unifiedmindfulness.com. I am many things, but I am not a licensed mental health professional, nor am I a therapist. I am not authorized to teach in any Buddhist tradition, but I do know a bit about meditation, and as a fellow meditator in the mindfulness tradition, I feel a bit like I can help get people oriented to being able to establish their own practice. And it's roughly what I do through the lens of the Unified Mindfulness System, which, as we've been exploring so far this year, the sort of one of the unique elements of unified mindfulness is bringing this idea of a skills-based lens, that the mindful awareness is three skills coming together: concentration, clarity, and equanimity. And I say this over and over and over, but one translation of mindfulness from the Pali word sati is recollecti, or remembering. So the idea is that we have this quality of mindfulness and we just need to remember to do it. So one way to do that is repetition. That can be annoying though for some people, but hello, Angie. Hello, Jennifer. I've dropped in the chat, which I think is there, a link to a Google form that has a few time suggestions. Right now I'm looking at sort of times that would be like early evening on the West Coast, but a little bit later on the East Coast, which may not work out. And then late afternoon in Alaska for our Alaskan viewers. And then I dropped in there also the potential of starting a more virtual Zoom style group that right now I'm eyeing Tuesday nights. I don't know how frequently in a month that group would meet, maybe just monthly. But that's one of the things that I am looking at. So, and then finally, if you want to, I don't have the mailing list full blown yet, but at the very bottom, there's an optional thing if you want to, in essence, put your email out and that's one way for this group that has formed, a sort of interim community that formed around this, to be able to, for me to continue to kind of get information out and such. So today is Friday. I'm joined by our miniature poodle, Billy, and she's laying over there. I would hold her up and ask her the eternal question, do dogs have Buddha nature? But she would be very annoyed with me, so I'm not going to do that. She's sort of cashed out and not paying attention to me. But on Fridays, we normally do friendliness practice. So we'll play around with that. Our practices, for the most part, have been in this style of taking two techniques and then doing a little compare and contrast with those techniques. And so the major technique we've been playing around with, or an influence of my involvement with the Do Nothing Project and Jeff Warren, has been, is there something wrong with the audio? My phone is in airplane mode. If anyone else is having problems with audio, if you could post, that would be beneficial, so that I don't do a whole guidance with bad audio. That would suck. Pause for a moment. Usually when I have bad audio, it's because my phone is on and that creates interference with the microphone. Okay. All right. Well, sorry about that, Jennifer. Hopefully it will resolve itself, maybe. Okay. All right. Well, again, sorry for those that may be experiencing that. I'm going to move forward. So with the comparing and contrasting, we've in essence kind of only compared a lot of things with do nothing. So So it's not necessarily a true appropriate sort of N to M, or like a many to many comparison. It's really been a many to one comparison, and really this idea is to sort of compare different styles of, maybe in more technical terminology, efforting, with not efforting. This idea that there is a way to sort of meditate with the technique of just being, would be maybe one way to put it. And then I was a little bit delighted in the fact that one of the section instructions in Relax and Be Aware is let whatever happens happen, I think is roughly, or which, so that's Sayadaw U Tejaniya, who I mentioned, I think, yesterday. Sayadaw U Tejaniya has, okay. So U Tejaniya is a teacher in Myanmar, and really has kind of a almost a non-dual take on the more sort of standard Burmese style of meditation. So it's pretty interesting to look at that. And I know that the Relax and Be Aware book was also an influence on Jeff Warren. And then, as I had mentioned, Sayadaw is Alexis Santos's teacher. So, so the idea that he would have let whatever happens happen as one of those pieces, it's a little Venn diagram overlap with how Shinzen Young describes implementing the technique of do nothing. So Shinzen's instructions are to allow whatever happens to happen, or let whatever happens happen. Drop any, and this is a tongue twister, but you won't forget it. Drop any intention. So the idea that you're putting forth a specific intention to control your attention. So the idea is you're not monitoring in do nothing. You're letting go of putting forth any technique. So what people will often start out with is they'll let whatever happens happen, but then they're monitoring, they're almost doing this sort of meta technique of monitoring for whether or not they're trying to control their attention. So to a certain degree, this is one of those things where you could do it wrong for a while, and I don't think that it's necessarily going to have a negative impact. But in the doing of it in a different way, you'll potentially click over into the intent of do nothing at some point. So some of my fellow coaches who've tuned in from time to time are a little bit surprised that I'm trying to lean on the do nothing technique with folks as much as I am. So perhaps the fact that your folks are enjoying it is a sign that you're not new meditators. So maybe I need to be careful with that. So what we'll do today is a bit of the more traditional, side of the friendliness practice. Friendliness goes by a little bit of different names. In the world, they would refer to it as a practice that falls under the umbrella of nurture positive, meaning that it's nurturing positive emotions. In the more traditional old school Buddhist, that would be metta, M-E-T-T-A, translated often as loving kindness, all one word. Often you'll hear Dan Harris use friendliness, and that's another way you can translate metta at times. Jeff Warren likes to use affable good-naturedness, and I particularly like that. So we're ultimately meditating not to be awesome, open-hearted, compassionate meditators, which would be pretty cool, but we're meditating to help us show up in life in a way that we want to show up. And these practices in affable good-naturedness have been remarkably helpful in me showing up in a way that I'm more proud of, maybe is a nice way to put it. So for myself and for others. So it's a decent preamble. I think for most of us that are on here, at least live, we've done this before. Today, I'm just going to offer So I know, well, I'll just, as a quick aside, I've been working with folks that were guides that went, or I should say, I've been meeting with, not working with, um, but they've been goodly enough to like put up with the fact that I talk too much. But there is a collection of these sort of guides that took Jeff's How to Guide Meditation group, and they meet really regularly. But among them are folks that lean on the more visual side of guided meditation. And it was something that prior to me kind of hanging out and meeting with that group, I didn't really do a whole lot of that. So it's just a little nod to them as well in that. So I appreciate the reevaluate or the opportunity to reevaluate this. But what we'll do today is optionally, you don't have to do this, but optionally, throw in some visualization around sort of this idea of visual or visualizing gift giving. So we'll be offering phrases, but along with the phrase, you can think of it as almost like you're offering, if you want to go the traditional Hallmark side of like the bouquet of flowers, or sort of like a gift of your well wishes, like some sort of packaged up nice gift. But I'll offer those in a little bit more of the see in visual side. If you don't like that, just ignore it, and you can go with the phrases themselves. So we'll play around a little bit with phrases. You're always welcome to use your own phrases. I encourage you to play with that, especially if the wording doesn't work for you. That's one thing to begin to play with is it's like the expression of the wording. So, and then we'll be sitting for about 15 minutes, and I've already sort of gabbed a lot, so that'll put us right about the bottom of the hour. So let's do this. And for this, if you want to lie down, that is a total viable option. So I invite you to adopt a posture that helps you be both relaxed and alert, bringing forth a feeling of being dignified. And as we begin, checking in and seeing if we have any tension in the body. Each of us holds tension in different places. You'll know yours better than I. And often just in the noticing, the tension will soften and maybe melt away. And if it doesn't, that's our first opportunity in this sit today to bring a quality of no big deal, of being okay with the tension, or having room and space for the tension, if that resonates with you. And before we settle into our practice of cultivating affable good-naturedness, just a few conscious, deliberate breaths, whatever works for you for the number of them. If 2 or 3 is good, then that's fine. If 4 or more is good, that's totally fine too. Ideally, we're breathing in through the nose if available, breathing in a way that allows the belly to move unimpeded, and then extending and accentuating the exhale. And as Jeff Warren says, the exhale is this downward motion that helps us to settle in. You're always welcome to remain in this sort of sitting and knowing that you're sitting, sort of open monitoring posture. So feel free to set this as a waypoint, and you can return at any time. So, in our cultivation of friendliness, bringing to mind someone that we know, someone who our relationship is uncomplicated, perhaps a pet, seeing if we can bring a visual representation of them, seeing them smiling, happy to see us. We offer to them gifts of friendliness. And if you want, you can include well wishes and phrases along with it. May you feel seen. May you feel safe to be authentic. May you trust those around you. May you feel seen. May you feel safe to be authentic. May you trust those around you. You can say the phrases out loud if you're in an environment that's okay, or to yourself silently. You can slow them down to almost a snail's pace, over accentuating them, or you can speed them up, saying them fast and rapidly, whatever works. You can shorten the phrases or customize them. One short form might be seen, authentic, trust. And then lastly, if your visual representation is such, the visual itself may generate a warmth, and there is no need for phrases. So explore that. One more round of phrases just as a reminder. May you feel seen. May you feel safe. May you trust those around you. Or May you feel seen. May you feel safe to be authentic. May you trust those around you. Keep going. Good. So we'll do a little check in before we shift to do nothing. Just shift your attention into your body, if that feels okay. And then see emotions, any pleasant feel in. So, feel is the category we use for the body, both a physical body and emotional body. Feel in being the emotional body. And seeing if there's any pleasant sensation, if you've generated any warmth. And if you have, you may want to use the remaining time as a opportunity to focus on that sensation. Think of this as an opportunity to change course. So that's one option. Otherwise, let go of all the techniques and just shift into do nothing. Again, we use the technique of no technique, sort of radical shift, remarkably lo-fi. We allow whatever happens to happen. And if we spontaneously notice that we're trying to micromanage the attention, we let that go. As we settle into do nothing, the mind may get extra chatty, and you may find more and more thinking, almost as a way for the mind to keep you company. That totally qualifies as whatever, so we'll let that happen. But curiously see if you're drawn in, or remember, in allowing, we're not adding into the thoughts. We're just sitting here, nothing to do, nowhere to go, no agenda. That concludes our practice. Allowing some time for you to reconnect to your surroundings. Open your eyes when it feels right, if they've been closed. Thank you for your practice. Thank you for spending nearly 30 minutes with me today. Thank you for making it here to practice. That's the showing up part is the most important part. Yeah, just show up, I think, is one way that Roshi Joan Halifax puts it. So I think my microphone isn't good enough to pick it up, but I had a snoring poodle, miniature poodle. She's about 20 pounds next to me here. So she likes to sleep or eat when I'm meditating. So it's kind of a funny thing. So I have positive feel in when I hear her snoring. So part of what cued my choose your own adventure prompt at the end there. So, and just curious for folks if, reports are always optional, but I'd love to hear reports. If your with metta or loving kindness has shifted over time. So she's not gonna like this, but she just woke up when I rang the bell. So, but this is Billy. She has her own Instagram. She's Billy H Dog on Instagram. I think it's Billy.H.Dog. She's named after Billie Holiday. Good to hear, Jeff. But yeah, she's my favorite coworker. So, she's a funny little dog. She doesn't bark very much at all, if ever, very, very little. So, but yeah, so she, for whatever reason, seems to pick up on my emotional state a lot. So if I'm frustrated or something, she'll come underneath the desk. My desk is right here. She'll come underneath the desk and then she'll poke my leg until I get up from the desk and walk away. So if I'm wrestling with something at work or whatever, she's my emotional accountability buddy. So she's been a remarkably amazing godsend during the pandemic. So she often is scratching at that door when I lock the door. So again, thank you so much for everyone that has been participating in this since November. I really do appreciate that. The description, or as the YouTubers say, the doobly-doo, is where I also have the Google form for the survey, and then I just posted it again. Actually, I posted it there, I think. And so really just looking at sort of evening times, because I know that there's some set hours that I'll need to be at work that are on Eastern time, which is part of why I'm favoring Eastern time in there. But I did include Alaska time just for Sarah. And so just as a shot at the beginning to see, like, are there any times in there that might work? I have a continuing Zen study group on Wednesday nights that would regularly conflict. So if you're wondering why there's some times that aren't there, it's because of communities that I sit with as well. And then I think one of the times would conflict with the CEC. So that's maybe not a good idea. And then the other notion is the potential of doing like a virtual sitting group, kind of in the flavor or style of CEC. I've been looking at the activation guide now on and off for a year and a half. And so that was one thing. Tuesday nights are probably the best for me. And so selfishly, that's something I was looking at. So those are, 1 second. Here we go. So Tuesday nights are selfishly work really well for me. I don't have any existing sitting groups that I sit with. So that's part of why that's there as well. And then just as one way for me to keep in contact with folks, there's a thing at the end that's optional if you want to provide an email, and eventually I'll have some sort of low frequency newsletter sort of thing that won't spam you a bunch, but would be something that wouldn't end up in your inbox more than once a month. So yeah, well, that's my thought now. So. And Instagram is probably the easiest way to get a hold of me more regularly. I'm Leonards, Lenards, D as in David, S as in Sam. No O. Asked me about that. They said, hey, you said your Instagram was this, and there's no O. So, and then let's see. I have a podcast appearance that'll come out on the 2nd of February. So I'll try to post that. That'll be eventually in my bio for Instagram. So I'll post that when it comes out. The audience for that's all programmers. So I may sound quite alien and or nerdy with the way I'm explaining meditation. But that's something that's coming. And then, as always, you'll find me on Sunday nights on the Do Nothing Project in the chat, and then also very honored to guest host from time to time. So appreciate that as well. So thank you again. I hope and you're very, very welcome, Sarah. I really enjoyed having a little bit of a pop-up community for this. So I really appreciate that. So have a great February, and till we meet again.